Hey, everyone. I thought I'd try to do something different. The last newsletter was a bit long, so I was thinking to just make a video to give you guys an update on one of the parts today, particularly the logistics aspect. Because I talked to the people of Bpost today. That's the Belgian and Dutch post office, and talked to them about how can we create a logistics system for circular economy companies. Um, and uh, the pitch itself went, I think, quite well. They said that the idea behind what I created was definitely what they were themselves already looking towards. They had tried different elements. They had tried different ways of testing and validating these needs. Um, but for them, it was also refreshing to see all of these things put together in one pitch and one vision. Um, so I think for you guys to stay up to date, I'll just run through the presentation as I did for them, highlight some of their feedback in the presentation, and afterwards also show some things that they showed me and what potential next steps are, but also where I think I need the help of people like you from the community of Kazasui um, to kind of see how I should progress from here. So it's just going to be like an update, and afterwards, then feel free to reach out if you have any ideas. Um, yeah, so let's get in it. Just gonna see if it's recording. It's not. I prepared so well for this. Mm. So this one works. Okay. I'm not gonna be a perfectionist. I'm just gonna make it work so it works. All right, I think this works. Okay, cool. So second round. Okay, so the idea was basically that I wanted to see with them, can we talk about circular logistics? Kind of as a pun, because they are called Bpost from Belgium Post. I made the C post from Circular Post, and with the people from Non-Zero Sum, I just shout out to them for helping me with the Photoshop skills. So basically, the circular logistics, I mean, it's not something revolutionary new, and everyone knows this, the right side here of this butterfly model, where it's about how can we create a return system where parts of the products or the entire product itself is sent back for reuse, maintenance, refurbishment, and ultimately, if it's all the way ready to be recycled, but to go back to the manufacturer, because ultimately, especially if you consider the idea of shifting the idea of ownership from the consumer when he buys it to the producer, and just that he has to offer it as a service, that there's definitely a big hiatus in the current system to get things back to the producer. So one of the most important things is, of course, that we are dealing with consumers. Consumers are conveniency seekers. They don't want to have too much trouble in returning something or even just doing or buying something. So we have to really see how can we lower the thresholds, because if we can do that, we can actually help producers or manufacturers offer their products as a service. And whether that's a leasing model or it's an actual product as a service or it's a lease to own type model, doesn't really matter, but it's ultimately meant to help close the loops on this side. Um, so what are the more concrete problems that people face? Well, basically, there's no easy way to return things to the producer. I mean, you need to have a box at home. The box has to be the right size. Then you have to have the tape to be able to go over it. Then you need to have some label printer, or you need to stick it over with some more tape, the label on it. Then a lot of people just have things ready, like things to return to Zalando or whatever, laying around the house, waiting for them to have time or think of going to the post office. Same as for things you can bring to the supermarket. When you're in a rush and to get out, you kind of forget whatever you could bring. But ultimately, the main thing we want to avoid, and the problem is that if you want to really recycle things that are different than your PMD things or the things you can keep in the house to get or to help the environment with through the municipality, the main thing is that people don't want to have like empty bottles just laying around. So there has to be a easier way to return things. So in essence, the main thing I think we should do is focus on these multi-use packagings. So thinking of how can we move away from the standard cardboard boxes and go into a realm of hard plastics and reusable plastics or hard foams, because these things are way more robust and reusable. And there's a lot of startups now, like the Repack, that are using just sleeves. So they use like thick sleeves, which is perfect for soft goods. But whenever you have hard goods, then there's no protection. So there has to be something else there. Second of all, it should be labelless, to kind of avoid the whole hassle of finding labels, printing labels, putting labels on labels. This is something that is just really redundant and outdated. There's so many technologies off the shelf available to use QR codes. So we should use any type of barcode or QR code to do labelless packaging. Because if you have boxes and boxes have their unique ID, then basically we can just connect any throughput, whether it is from the producer or from the consumer. They just scan the box, they say what they put in the box and where it is supposed to go, and voila, those systems should be able to know where it goes. Then, of course, for convenience, also there should be more drop-off locations. So not just supermarkets and mailboxes, but it should also be possible to go to maybe different stores or to different locker systems, digital locker systems, to drop off your good. And of course, we need to have different sizes. So ideally, we have a small one, like a mailbox size, because if that fits into your mailbox, both for the mail service and for the people, it's much easier to just drop it off and not even have to think about putting it in lockers or stuff like that. So that's the basic solution that I see. Hence the idea for Bpost. The box itself, I mean, this is just a render, but the idea would be that it's like some type of rigid box that can be reused and dinged up in delivery vans. In Dutch, they say hufterproof, asshole proof. So that should definitely be the way it should be. And the most notable thing here is, of course, the QR code. So basically saying, it should just be a plain box. I mean, maybe we can white label the logos, but the main thing is, of course, that it's an easy universal box, and it doesn't matter who uses it or which direction it goes. It's just a matter of having a code connected to the box. Also, this should be like an app. I mean, I just stole this from some UI thing, so it has nothing to do with this. But ultimately, it's of course knowing which orders are coming your way, which boxes are coming your way, and to have features such as order a box, because if your vacuum cleaner breaks and you have a vacuum cleaner as a service, you should be able to put it into a box and not have to grab a box somewhere yourself. Also, of course, you should need to know where are the nearest drop-off locations. And the app itself, or at least the mobile interface, should be for both B2B and B2C, because we also want to have warehouse and fulfillment partners to be able to use it, scan boxes in, and put it into the system. Yeah, so these boxes, whether they come by mail person or they come by these locker systems, ultimately the idea is that it's just a free-floating formula. So for this, I'm just going to zoom to this one. Check if it's, yeah. So this is just a idea, just a schematic overview from the brand point of view. So this is if I have the Kausasui cosmetics line or the healthcare line, whatever the name is going to be. The idea would be this. So on a website, you have an e-commerce platform and people would have their subscription. So say this is for the self-care ones. You have your vitamin D tablets. You can say how many times a month you want to have received this and what the price would be. Same for the shampoos, same for the soap. And ultimately, all of this together is your subscription. And so at any time, you should be able to change it. Of course, not like 1 second before delivery, but for the next month. And so this order information, so your personal profile, your personal data, meaning your address and your name, are then combined with the order sent to the warehouse for fulfillment. And here they have their order overview. And again, this is just like super high level wireframing. But the idea would be that then every order has a unique QR code or whatever type of code. This code then knows, okay, who is the customer, what is its or her address, and what is in the box. What's in the box? And so this, I mean, this is not like a professional system, but something like this would then work. So then when the order picking starts, the person then scans the order, scans a box, and then knows what should be in the box. Then when he puts the items in the box, he scans the items, so the box knows and the system knows what is in the box. So then it can be transported, for instance, by Bpost. Wondering why there's no two-way delivery. Apparently they have tried, but that's a different operational model. So they deliver at home. At home, you use this. This is like a sachet for a gel. You use the sachet, then you put the empty refill back in the box, and then you scan the box and you say, hey, this should be picked up, or I'm going to put this in the mailbox. You put it in the mailbox, or you bring it to the post office or drop-off location. It gets driven back to the warehouse, and then at the warehouse, then people can say, hey, so okay, this was recyclable waste, so the box goes back into the warehouse to be used, because the ID will then be freed. And then recycled plastics, for instance, can then be brought to the recycling plant or the producer to refill. So, I mean, this is just a very simple schematic overview, but it shows like the need for a reusable box that is just basically like a free floating container that at times can be connected to a order, a unique ID, and then go through a certain loop and then come back and be reusable again. So it's not super complex in that sense. This was, of course, the essence. I mean, if you look at it from a business point of view, here the main thing is that a company, here on the top left corner, they will have their customer data and their order data connected to the customer, and they will start their warehouse and fulfillment protocol. This can, of course, also be outsourced. But the main thing is that when they fulfill the order and they use this unique ID box for it, the API, so the circular post API, should be notified, so that can be connected to the Bpost systems, just the current delivery system of Bpost. So when they scan the box, they know, it's this person who has this order that needs to go to this customer. And then they can just use their existing transportation method. So here, the customer then has the box and can either request a new box, for instance, when something breaks and he needs something new, or he can order a pickup if he has something already at home and he has been collecting some empty refills. You should be able to request it. So the question is, should this be done through this company's front end? Because I mean, if you order vitamins from Kaosasui and you have a big pile of empty cartridges or refill packages, it makes sense to ask Kaosasui for the boxes and not Bpost, but maybe it does make sense. So that's something to be explored. All in all, this data should be flowed to the Bpost, so then the Bpost knows, we should bring some unique ID boxes to this person. A other route that can happen is that when these people drop it off, this could be like at supermarkets or wherever. Of course, also here, the transport should pick it up. But interestingly, when we look at more circular ideas, when it's about also repair, refurbishment, maybe even just cleaning, this could be a way to then connect to circular hubs. So hubs where customers say, hey, we've got this, like for me, it could be textiles, that if somebody has like, hey, I banged up my t-shirt, I need a hole repaired, that they can just send it to the circular hub through our front end, and then it ends up at the circular hub where there's a atelier or there's someone there who can repair the textiles. So the company knows that this is happening through this Bpost API, and the transport is automatically arranged. So, I mean, that's a very schematic overview. Again, simplistic and all, but just to kind of show what it should be capable of doing, and how we can just build on top of the current infrastructure without it having to, reinvent the wheel. And it's really just API based. It's just connecting data points together, and being a bridge between the Bpost system and companies. Ultimately, I see Kauzasui API or Kauzasui backend system also in this realm, but it is to be defined, because I really don't want to become a logistical company. I hope somebody else wants to do this for me. So what it could do ultimately, of course, Bpost can diversify its portfolio into warehouse and fulfillment services, as they do now in Holland with active ants. We can make it more secure. So if you have like a high valued good that you're trying to transport, we can maybe do some Bluetooth locks, because they are just off the shelf available nowadays. More sizes, more use cases, obviously. And I think also quite interestingly, as I'm a firm believer firm believer into decentralizing wealth and decentralizing economics. I think using people that do delivery, so the Deliveroo kids, to actually have them be part of this. So Bpost doesn't actually have to have a van go through the city. They can also just use these type of people to pick things up and bring them to the central hubs. So that all makes sense. And so I give them my idea of a timeline where I say, I'm asking you guys for buy-in to get this done, to see if you guys would be interested in doing this with me. Find 5-6 pilot partners to set this up. So then if we get all of this ready, we can then go in towards the development of the MVP, launch an MVP with partners, and then start scaling. So, I mean, this is, of course, again, super schematic. So ultimately what they said here is not let's do it. They liked the concept of this, because this is, of course, something that they have the ambition of doing, but it's difficult to do because Bpost is a big company with a lot of stakeholder management. I'm trying to be politically correct in what I'm saying here. But the main part here is that is difficult. Because they have these ambitions themselves as well, but it's difficult to change a gigantic company. So what they proposed for me now is to look at the ecozone Mechelen. So this is the city in Belgium called Mechelen. It's a relatively small city, but it's big enough to try something. And what they want to do is to, in the city of Mechelen, create a lot of these lockers, so these digital lockers, as we saw before. Like these, where you can pick up and drop off your packages. And so they want to do some testing with different, like these are electric vehicles with people on bikes to do all of this, the last mile delivery. So basically, this idea of using different, reusable packs could be connected to this Mechelen project. So it's interesting, but it's something that will, last a few years before it's like fully up and running. So it's an interesting case, especially since there are different companies already in Mechelen that could be interested in this circular economic concept. Also, my own the Kauzasui software. So I think there's a different. Here's the pilot project. So there's an opportunity there, but it means that I cannot like launch it myself here with a few partners. So I'm kind of stuck in that sense. We saw, or they showed me that in Switzerland they have this system for reusable packages. The problem is that once you want to launch it on a national level, it's such a capex or company expense. That is really difficult to do, because you need such a large marketing campaign. You need so many partners to really get the critical mass to make it a mass adoption. It's really challenging. So they are struggling. They've done it. You can still use it, but it's not extremely successful, and they're mainly focused on B2B. So here the main lesson was, if you want to go B2C with these reusable packages, you have to start small, so in just one city, and you have to have very strong brands supporting you. meaning that the consumers really should want to help and experiment with this circularity, but it has to still be designed and tested and trialed. So I'm hoping now here in Antwerp to find 5-6 companies that are willing to try this with me, to make a version of this for Antwerp, where we can do the circular logistics. And we'll just do it first with labels instead of the QR code, so Bpost doesn't have to throw up their entire operating model. But yeah, so that's, I think, the way to go for now. And then there's this, I don't know if it's this guy, but there's this French guy apparently who has a lot of money, and he's built this super over-engineered box. It has like a LED system. It has like a cooling thing. I don't know. It's really ridiculous. Here it is. Like, it has all of this safety net stuff. It's crazy. Yeah, so they're busy, but they've been busy for years, and they have not yet launched. Like, here it is, like a timeline. So here they launched in 2016, and it's now 2020, and they're starting production maybe, and maybe doing a launch in 2021. Yeah, so I don't think they have. I mean, they just over-engineered this idea and didn't test it and stuff. But interesting to learn from. But yeah, so all in all, my brief to you guys, or question to you guys, is what to do. I'm thinking about contacting DHL or Bpost or DPD. Maybe they can move faster. Maybe they are willing to trial this circular economics. But maybe because I don't think either of them are really Dutch companies. They all have their American or whatever offices. So yeah, I don't know how big that chance is. So if you have any ideas, then let me know. This was basically the update for now on the logistics, because I can talk about the other things, but I'll do that in a different video. Yeah, so thank you for listening. I hope this was okay. This is really awkward because I don't know where to look or click. But yeah, okay, see you guys later. Bye bye.